All right, so Jeremy talked a little bit about what happened last time, but I need a little more help from you guys. I wasn't here, and I know Nora wasn't here either. Who was here last time? Raise your hand. Macy, Mason, Lucas. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Moses and how God picked him and why God picked Moses. Who can give me a few examples or what the story was about last time and about Moses? Who remembers something about Moses? Mason? He was born in Egypt, and he was raised in Pharaoh's house. You're right, Macy. Mm-hmm.
But she put it in a basket, and she put it across the river, and the Pharaoh's daughters found him.
Right. And what did they do with him? Did they try to kill him, or did they keep him? Yeah, and they raised him like their own, right? Who remembers the spot when God talked to Moses and told him that he was going to be the one to lead the Israelites? How did that happen? A burning bush. Who could imagine it? Like, let's pretend that was a real bush. If that started burning, would that be kind of weird? Yeah, it'd be different, huh? But God told Moses that he was going to be the one to lead the Israelites. And how did Moses react to that? Was he all really excited and he thought he would be really good at it? How did Moses take that? He felt really nervous, didn't he? He didn't think he could do it, did he? But what did God tell him? God told him that he could do it and that God would give him the words to say to talk to Pharaoh. Okay, so the last thing that happened last time was God told Moses and his brother Aaron to go to Pharaoh and to do what? To tell Pharaoh what? Right, and to do that and to let them go, right? Okay, so that's where the story starts. It starts when Moses and Aaron went to talk to Pharaoh, who's the king of Egypt, in charge of everyone in Egypt, okay? So, this is what they said. They went to Pharaoh and said, "Let the Israelites leave Egypt for just 3 days to worship God. If you choose not to do this, God will punish the Egyptians severely." But Pharaoh was stubborn, and he would not listen. He said, "Who is this God that I should listen to him? I don't know your God. I'm not letting you leave." And guess what else he made him do? He made them work even harder as slaves. And it got really hard for them. Then Moses told Pharaoh that if you don't let the people go, he's going to punish the Egyptians. So God sent some what were called plagues. Who knows what a plague is? Who's ever heard of that? Greenhead. It's like a sickness? Yeah. Anything else to add, Lucas?
Zombie apocalypse.
Well, okay. Right, yeah, right. So some bad things were going to happen. So there was going to be a total of 10 plagues. The first one, you won't believe this, God turned the Nile River into blood. Could you imagine if you went to the Namakagon River and it was turned to blood and all the fish were dead? That's the first thing that happened. The second plague was a mob of frogs were everywhere, in their houses, in their beds. Oh, you're right, Mason. The third and fourth plagues were gnats. Who knows what a gnat is? Yeah, they're little tiny bugs that bite you, and also flies. And after each one of these plagues, Moses returned to Pharaoh and said, Now are you going to let us go? Because if you don't, bad things are going to keep happening. But Pharaoh was still stubborn, and he would not listen. So then the 5th plague came, and it was disease over all their animals and their livestock. But guess what? The Israelites' animals didn't get sick, just the Egyptians. The 6th plague was horrible sores all over your body. Imagine if you had even worse than mosquito bites, like sores that were like bloody all over your whole body. They couldn't even lay down. And after each plague hit, Pharaoh would say, "Enough, enough. If you stop these plagues, I will let you leave." But after God stopped the plagues, what do you think he did? He said, nope. He refused to let him go. So the 7th plague brought hail. You know what hail is? Big chunks of ice, and they ruined like their houses and everything. And it hurts if you get hit with it. And also locusts. Who knows what a locust is? It's kind of a big bug, yeah. And what locusts do is they'll eat all your leaves of your plants and everything. Mm-hmm. And the 9th plague brought complete darkness over all of the land for 3 days. It was dark for 3 whole days. And despite all these horrific events, Pharaoh still would not let the Israelites leave. God told Moses, "Pharaoh's stubbornness will give me the opportunity to do even greater things in Egypt, even greater miracles." So God sent one final plague, and this was the worst one. This is what it was. Moses warned Pharaoh about the final plague. He said, "This is what God says. About midnight, I will pass through Egypt. Every firstborn son will die." Who here is a firstborn son in their family? Anyone? Asher, you are. Mason, Lincoln. Your brother. Well, anybody who's got a brother, the firstborn brother, that means all of you would die. All because Pharaoh would not let the people go. So here's what happened. Right. So here's what's going to happen. It says, Moses left the meeting with Pharaoh, and Pharaoh was burning with anger. In spite of this warning, Pharaoh still refused to let them go. So here's what happened. God gave Moses and Aaron the instructions to tell the Israelites what you could do to prevent your firstborn son from being killed. So what all the Israelites had to do was they had to take a perfect lamb or goat and sacrifice it to God, and take the blood from that animal and put it on their door frame above their door to go in their house. They put a little bit of blood on their door frame, and then God would know to pass over or to not kill the baby or the firstborn son in that house. So all the Israelites listened to Moses and Aaron, and they put the blood on the door frame. And here's what happened. All of Egypt at midnight woke up during the night, and all you could hear was loud weeping and crying throughout the whole land. And someone had died in nearly every Egyptian home, including Pharaoh's own son. And then the Egyptians begged the Israelites to leave right away. So that night, the Israelites, now numbering more than 2 million people, set out to return to their promised land in Canaan. And God guided them through the wilderness with a pillar of clouds during the day and a pillar of fire at night. And meanwhile, after they were on their way, what do you think Pharaoh was thinking?
Why do we do that?
What do you think Pharaoh's going to do now? He already let him go, but now what's he thinking? He's going to go after him with his army. Pharaoh changed his mind and sent the army after him. The Israelites started to see the army coming, and they turned to Moses, and they also saw a humongous lake. It almost looked as big as an ocean on the one side, and the army on the other side chasing them. And they started to panic. And they told Moses, "Why did you make us leave? We were better off in slavery. Take us back to Egypt. It's better than getting killed or drowned." And then Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. God will rescue you today. He will fight for you." Then God told Moses, because they were up at the sea, they were against the big, what they called the Red Sea, and God told Moses to stretch out his hand over the sea like this, and he did this. God brought a huge wind that opened a path in the lake, in the sea, for them to go. So the sea parted. Imagine if you were up at Lake Superior and all of a sudden the waters just came apart and there was a dry path to walk on. That's what they did. So all the Israelites walked through the sea on the dry path, and when they looked back, the Egyptian army was coming after them, and God told Moses, "Put your hand up again." And you know what happened when all the Israelites, or all the bad army, the Egyptian army, was coming into the sea? And what happened? What do you think happened when Moses put his hand up again? He closed the sea. What happened to all the Egyptian army? They drowned and died. And you know what? All the people in Israel were just amazed at the power of God, and they put their trust in God and His servant Moses. And they sang songs, and they danced, and they celebrate how God had saved them. And that's it. The end.